Oh my gosh, how y'all doing? It is half past the hour, and I was supposed to go live earlier. But anyway, my daughter had a dance competition today. So as soon as I came back into the house, ate my food, my husband and I, we had sort of like a date night. We went out to a steakhouse. Anyway, I'm here. I'm so happy to be here. Hey, everybody. I am Dr. Alicia, and this is my book club. And the book we're reading is How to Be an Adult in Relationships. And it's the 5 keys to mindful loving. And gosh, for the past couple of months, I've been going through this book, and we are more than halfway done. So exciting. Hello, Nalisha, how you doing? Hey, I like that. Nalisha Mitchell, how you doing? Elaine, how you doing? Who is this Dr. O? Dr. O. Okay, Dr. O, how you doing? I hope, is that my coworker? I got a coworker named Dr. O. I don't know if it's him, but if it's you, oh my God, my daughter did not win. Y'all, let me tell you. First of all, they have been killing it at this dance competition. Her high school dance competition, they have been killing it. They've been winning first place at all of these competitions. And today they they did not win. They didn't place. And it's so interesting because like they're so used to winning. And I was like, Taylor, how you feel? She was like, this is deeply humbling. she said, I feel so humbled by this experience. So you win some, you lose some, but I was just happy that she was able to get out there and do some dance. Hey Kim, how you doing? Kim Johnson. Hey Lisa. Oh, Margot, you like my hair? Thank you. My 17-year-old, she did my hair for me. She does soft locks, y'all. I don't know. I needed something to spice up the holiday season. Do you like my makeup? Y'all like my makeup? It is a Black owned company that does my makeup. Her name is Vanity Vegan. Y'all check her out on Instagram. She sent me a whole package of makeup, and I was like, I'm wearing it on the air. So y'all check out Vanity Vegan. She sends me makeup, and she's really good. I think her makeup is amazing, and I got to meet her in person, and she's absolutely beautiful. I was like, why would you have a makeup company? Her face was flawless. So anyway, so yeah, so that's where I get my makeup from. I don't even think about it. I just go into her little box that she sent me, and I really appreciate that, and I just wear it. So I guess I should probably promote it more because not many Black owned makeup companies. Vanity Vegan, y'all check her out. Anyway, hi everybody. Look at this, Life Beyond the Ring. How you doing? Wait, who is this? I know you from Clubhouse. That is not me. Okay, I'm glad you mentioned this because I do not have a Clubhouse account, and there is quite a few people on Clubhouse who's pretending to be me. It's not me. I'm not on Clubhouse. The real estate syndicate. Mm-mm. I'm a therapist, I'm a social worker, and I'm a college professor. I do not dabble into real estate. Please do not buy anything from me. And please do not sign up for anything on Clubhouse because I do not participate in Clubhouse. I probably should. I wouldn't mind. But I'm glad you put that Life Beyond the Ring. I hope you did not give that Alicia Watkins any money because it's a scam. Oh my gosh. Spread the word. Spread the word. Tara, how you doing? Hi, everybody. Who else is in here? Tell me where you're coming from. While you put your information in there, tell me what city you're from. I do want to reiterate this is How to Be an Adult in Relationships. It's the 5 keys to mindful loving. This book is deep. This book is very deep. We are on chapter 5. So chapters 1 through 4, if you want to get that, you're going to have to text. Let me see. Where is it? Text the word love, LOVE, to 87948. Many of you guys did text the word love to 87948 because that's how you know that I'm going live. I'm sorry I'm late, but I had some family obligations today, and nothing was more wonderful than watching my daughter dance out there. She danced her heart out, and she had a really good time. It was a great bonding experience with her and her teammates. And I just think like, anytime she's on stage, she's having a fun time. Okay, so look at everybody. Oh my gosh, Kim from Oakland, California. That's what's up. Charleston, West Virginia. West Virginia. Good grief. How you doing, Ashley? We got Regina from the Chi Town. Hey, Regina, I lived on Drexel. I lived in the south part of Chicago. When I lived in Chicago, I went to University of Chicago in Hyde Park. So that's where I went. Art Tari from Virginia Beach. Hey, that's what's up, Virginia Beach. Sharif in Boston. Yes, New York. Helen Weaver, how you doing? From Georgia, Lawrenceville, Georgia. Gosh, Erickson from Fort Lauderdale, California, all over the country, from one end of the country to the other. I know I got some UK people, usually people from the UK. Y'all are in here too. So anyway, I am so excited. Gosh, we've been talking about many chapters in this book. What I like is that this book talks about the 5 keys. Can y'all see that? The 5 keys to mindful loving. Do y'all know what it is? I should quiz y'all. The 5 keys to mindful loving. What is it? It is mindful loving. What does that mean? It is attention. So it's giving your partner attention and then receiving attention from your partner. Attention, affection. That's another key to mindful loving. Key to mindful loving is affection, being affectionate with each other. It doesn't have to be hugging up all on each other, but it's affection in the way you guys interact with each other. Affection, allowance, no judging, allowing that person to be who they are. Sometimes if you see stuff that you don't like, and we'll talk about it here, if you see things that maybe you don't like, you still have to allow that person to be who and what they are, even if it doesn't work for you. So still have to allow. So attention, affection. Thank you, Elaine. Allowing, you have to allow people to be who and what they are, and you have to appreciate them. So the 4th A is appreciation, showing the utmost level of appreciation. That is the 4th key to mindful loving. So instead of criticizing that person, you have to appreciate that person. And the last one is acceptance. You have to allow somebody, you have to appreciate them, and you have to accept them. And guess what? They have to do the same for you. So what this book centers around is all of the 5 keys to mindful loving. What I like about it is that it goes from the root. It talks about how you receive this from your parents growing up and how it has an impact on your current relationships. And today we're going to talk about conflict. We just finished up chapter 4, which was all on romance, all on high romance. So we don't fall in love, we rise in love, right? So that's how we need to see it. Not a falling in love, we rise in love. However, when it comes to conflict that arises, we really need to talk about falling into conflict because it is something that is inevitable. A lot of us do not know the inevitable piece of conflict, but we're going to tackle it today. Well, we're going to tackle part of it today. Today, I'm just going to read a couple of pages in chapter 5. Chapter 5 starts on page 133. I have the paperback book. You can get it on Kindle. There's even an audio book version. So I do have the Kindle version. I also have the audiobook version, but I prefer, because I'm old school, I prefer the paper. So I'm old school. I prefer paper, and I'll be reading from the paper copy. And we're going to talk about when conflicts arise, because this is a phase that happens in all relationships, and most of us don't know how to deal with it. Most relationships end in the conflict phase. Most relationships, as soon as somebody gets so scared, as soon as conflicts arise, we get scared and we end the relationship. And I think that sometimes we do this prematurely, and we're missing out on this opportunity to learn, not necessarily about the other person. You do learn about the other person on the other side of conflict, but in the process, you also learn about yourself and you also grow. So we're going to talk about that today. Okay, when conflict arises, And it's on page 133. Y'all ready? Okay, here we go. Here we go. I like what the author does because he begins every chapter with a quote. Here's the quote: time, force, and death. Lord. To do this body what extremes you can. To do this body what extremes you can. But the strong base of building of my love is as the very center of the earth, drawing all things into it. Shakespeare said that. Okay, so this is written in Shakespeare language. That's really tough to read. But I think what he's saying in this phrase, I had to really think about it. He's saying that when conflict arises, it sometimes shakes the foundation of the relationship. Think about it this way. You're in this romance phase where you just love that person. You can't get enough of them and everything is going well. You agree on a whole lot of things, but the inevitable conflict arises when you disagree on something, when you're starting to find out, what's going on with this? What's going on here and there? And it can shake the foundation of the relationship. The relationship is tested by time, force, and death. Oh my goodness. The relationship is tested by time because eventually you're going to have conflict. The force of that conflict and even the weight of mortality. Think about that. Death. Death means the possibility of that person not being in your life again. It's the death. That's deep, right? So it's a sentiment. It's just beautifully captured by Shakespeare. And he says, do it this body with extremes you can, but the strong base of building of my love is the very center of the earth, drawing all things into it. So I think kind of what he's saying here is that we all need to be reminded that while arguments and difficulties can shake the foundation of a relationship, a love that's built on a strong foundation, even though it may shake, it won't crack. Yeah, but the strong base and building of my love is the very center of the earth, drawing all things to it. So this drawing strength from a deep, unwavering commitment pulls everything back to its core. Damn. That's saying quite a bit about how it feels when the person that you've fallen head over heels in love with, you now have your first argument. And I'm talking about first real conflict, not, oh, are we having a first argument? This is so cute. Not that. I'm talking about real, I don't know if I like this at all. I don't know if I can deal with this, right? It can shake everything to its core. But if it's built on love, and if you want to know how to build conflict on love, I think you should pay attention to chapter 4 or chapter 3. Chapter 3 talks about how to find a partner. And I think if you follow the steps in chapter 3 of this book, you'll have something that's really built on a strong foundation. I won't go into it because those recordings are out there for you to look at, but it tells us, this invites us to approach conflict not with fear, approach conflict with a reassurance that love, if it's nurtured, if it's maintained, somehow becomes like the grounding force that's capable of withstanding the extremes. It's capable of withstanding conflict. So that's what's important. You know, this is why, you know, honestly, I think I used to listen to people talk on the internet about there was a lady on the internet, and I know Boyce really liked what she had to say, and I was kind of like, I don't really know if I agree with that. But she would say, I can't remember her name, but I guess it doesn't really matter. She would say stuff like, women, y'all take direction from your bosses, but you don't take direction from your husband, or something like that. And I was just like, that doesn't sit well with me, because I really do believe that a romantic relationship, it's incomparable to any other type of relationship you could have. Like, I think that, you know, if I'm married to somebody, he's not my, like, my husband's not my boss. Like, and I'm not his boss, you know, we're equals. And it's not like an sterile arrangement, and you know, unless, you know, some relationships can be like that, but that's not something that I would sign up for, like a sterile arrangement. I think that the connection shared between my husband, it holds like a depth and an intimacy that I don't think can be mirrored in other relationships, particularly a boss, a coworker, or even, I would even say to some extent, a business partner. Like, romantic relationships, you know, we see each other in our birthday suits. You know, it's like, that's not the same, you know. It's built on this emotional vulnerability, mutual affection, and that's not appropriate in work environments, you know. So I really think it's a unique bond. It transcends professional or even platonic relationships, because if y'all remember, Boyce and I were friends, platonic friends, for a really long time. And I knew him as a friend, but dating him, it was totally different from being friends with him for several years, you know, for a long time, actually, several decades. We were friends. We talked a lot, but that was different from stepping into a romantic relationship. So, workplace, business relationships, to me, it's like, it's more like logical, and you got goals set and responsibilities, where I feel like a relationship with my husband, even though we do work together, but my relationship with my husband, it's more emotional. There's more a deep companionship that we actually have. I think we've gotten closer. I know y'all know recently, he lost his mother, and I lost my mother-in-law. So I'm grieving, he's grieving. I think that deep companionship, you know, dealing with a spouse going through something really awful like that, and really painful experience like that, and you know, it compares to no other. And um, he helped me. It's interesting. When we first started dating, my father passed away, and he was there for me when my father passed away. And it was a very painful experience. It was probably the worst experience in my entire life. The whole experience of my father passing away and all the drama, it was a lot of drama involved. Maybe one day I'll share that story about my dad and all the drama. Oh, daddies, y'all do it to us. But it was a lot of drama, but he helped me through that. So I don't know. I just feel like it's important to make that distinction. Um, you know, the connection is irreplaceable. The connection you have with your romantic partner is irreplaceable. But anyway, let's move on. We've gotten Shakespeare out of the way. So I mean, they're comparing conflict to the possibility of death. Like, this is core stuff, I think. Very core things. Okay, continuing on. In heroic tales, enlightenment is often followed by a descent into the underworld. Woo! Yes, it is. This is interesting. Enlightenment is often followed by a descent into the underworld, the darkness. That is your subconscious. Let me tell you something. Enlightenment can only follow descent into darkness. If any of you all want any type of enlightenment, if anybody has an idea that pops into their head, I want to be enlightened, you are welcoming darkness into your life because enlightenment only comes out of darkness. George Lucas knows that. He knows. Y'all watch Star Wars? I'm more of a Star Trek person, but I really appreciate and honor and respect the concepts in Star wars, because he's talking about the dark side. Okay. He talks about the dark side, all moving all through that series. And it's a necessary step for enlightenment. You cannot have enlightenment unless you're willing to go to the dark side. There's songs written about it. Step into the dark side. You know, that's a necessary piece. Stepping into darkness. Okay. Our journey in a relationship goes down from the summit rather than up to it. So the process of a relationship, it has to go down. So this is talking about conflict. How are you now going to deal with the inevitable conflict? The second and usually the longest phase in relationships is conflict. Facts right there. Dang. As the light of romance is replaced by the shadow of tension, you should welcome this. The shadow of tension. In this phase of the romantic image, the romantic image of you gives way to the reality of you. Peeling all the layers back, putting your best foot forward. You can only do that for so much. Eventually, your partner has got to know the real, authentic you. Not to say that putting your best foot forward is inauthentic. So in pathological people, we'll call them narcissists or even manipulative people, you never see who they are. But we're talking regular relationships, right? You do see who they are, but you see the good parts of themselves because that's what they're showing you. However, you're not seeing your partner in their totality. So their good parts, the bad parts, the shadow parts, their tics, their issues, their obsessions, their compulsions. You don't see all of that. You may see hints of it, but you're so interested in falling in love, you ignore all of the negatives and you see the beauty of it. So this is inevitable, the shadow of tension, the reality of you. It's a grieving process because what you thought that person is, they still are to some extent. It's just that there's more to them. There's more color. There's more dynamic that's in there, that's in them. Like, you know, we do not know ourselves, nor can we integrate our experience until we meet our own shadow and befriend it by struggling with it. How can we know our partner until we do the same with her? How can we love what we do not know? It's not real love. At the beginning, when you're falling in love with the great parts of somebody, the real love comes after conflict. That love needs to be tested, boy. If we truly know ourselves, nothing anyone else does is ever strange, entirely strange, or unforgivable. Yeah, it's like we do not know ourselves, nor can we integrate our experiences really until we meet our shadow, until we meet our insecurity. So the shadow, and we've talked about this several weeks. For several weeks, we've been talking about the shadow. The shadow is like the hidden parts of yourself. Sometimes you don't even know what it is. So it's all of your fears, all of your insecurities, the things you're insecure about, you know, and these are things that you repress. And sometimes you have to face that in relationships. Many people can't do it because they don't have a good self-esteem, by the way. But to truly grow and achieve self-awareness, you are going to have to confront these, and you only confront them in relationships. So I really do think that true growth comes when you marry somebody. Yeah, true growth comes in a relationship with that person, with anybody, right? So I think sometimes there is a struggle there, and we have to uncover these profound truths about our nature, our capacity to lead more authentic and compassionate lives. I really do think that that is what conflict is going to have to test your ability to be compassionate for another person while you're hurting. The person could be hurting you. Okay. So, befriending the shadow, it tells us that we have to reconcile our inner conflicts, and a lot of us have them, to integrate the humanity of each of us. Test your love. Yes, Ronald. Cherry says the representative. Yes, you're seeing the representative of someone else. And that's just interesting. But hopefully that representative is a true reflection of who you really are. It's just a good side of yourself. Okay. Romance shows the love object's brighter side, the positive shadow, the untapped potential for good that we project onto those we idealize, putting people up on a pedestal. Conflict exposes a person's darker sides, the negative shadow. That is a proclivity to meanness, abuse, or even selfishness, which is then projected as strong dislike to those who display such behavior. Woo! Once blinded by romance, now we are free to see all sides of the partnership. We confront pettiness, lack of consideration, self-serving choices. Woo, y'all know this happens in relationships. The arrogant ego and its need to be right. I need to be right. I'm right and you're wrong. Something wrong. I'm perfect and there's something wrong with you. That's what the need to be right is saying. To get in the way and to avenge itself. We notice all the things in our partner that we cannot abide or hide. What we see in our partner is a projection, right? What was cute in romance way becomes acute in conflict. Woo, boy. I mean, we choose to often, the people that we choose to date is a reflection of parts of ourselves. Like, our romantic partners can serve as mirrors. So suppose you have an abandonment insecurity that came about when you were growing up. Maybe, ladies, maybe you were waiting for many weeks. You used to wait for your dad to pick you up from school, and he didn't pick you up from school, or he wasn't there, or he didn't show, or you had a parent that disappointed you in some way. And you had this insecurity, like, what's wrong with me? I feel like I'm insignificant, or these are the thoughts that you tell yourself, and it has nothing to do with you. Sometimes our parents just aren't perfect, has nothing to do with you, but in that childlike state, that is what you were hurt. So maybe there's these unhealed wounds that reside in us, like abandonment. Okay. And you can bring this. Suppose you're calling your partner and they're 10 minutes late picking you up, and it triggers something in you, this deep-seated of abandonment, meaning I'm not worthy. This person thinks I'm not worthy. It had nothing to do with you. Maybe they just got stuck in traffic, or maybe some of these things happen and you notice a pattern in this, but you're uniquely keen and sensitive to that because it is a wound that you had when you were growing up. And so it's interesting, I think, that we subconsciously pick the perfect person, not only for companionship, but we pick this person to help us address some of our wounds. And it's important during this process to really be cognizant of that. Like, gosh, this is why mindful loving, this is why mindfulness comes apart. Because instead of reacting, oh, you left me here, you abandoned me, you said you would be here, you must think I'm, what you're doing, you're suspicious of that other person. Instead of letting all these insecurities out, it's important to, in a mindful relationship, we have to consciously decide to do this, step back and say, what is this person bringing up for me? What's going on? And start working toward becoming whole and start understanding some of those things and processing it with your partner. If you have a partner that can help you process these things. Like, gosh, these feelings are coming up for me. Let me just tell you what happened. And telling that story and being vulnerable in those moments, that's how you, first of all, that's how you heal, but that's how you gain a deeper emotional connection with another person. And that's what I do in my practice when I'm working with couples. Things come up for people. I expected you to be there for me and you weren't there for me. And that really hurt me. And we start processing some of that. Not that there's something wrong with you, but in a way where we can have a beautiful conversation about the pain and the hurt that your partner felt and why. What is it reminiscent of? Sharing that story with each other. And that's how you connect with another person, being vulnerable. You are not going to do this with your boss. You may do a little bit of something, but your boss doesn't care about that, So it's that love and that deeper connection that you can potentially have with another person that makes, relationships unique. And I really do think that conflict, it does this. By the way, they talked about in that last paragraph, they did talk about like, there's some negative aspects that can come out. Like when you have a conflict with another person and you see how they react to conflict, it can be kind of shocking. You're like, dang, this person is mean. This person is abusive. You could see selfish. You can see that. And I do work with couples about these are losing strategies. Like in conflict, that is not the time to be mean. That is not the time to be verbally abusive or emotionally abusive and like calling someone names, telling them there's something wrong with them. That's not the time to just think these are losing strategies in a relationship, and it will create more resentment, and I think, these behaviors are projected out toward other people, and sometimes both of them can be quite awful to each other. Only a romantic relationship can do that because it's an intense bond that you have with another person. Okay, let's move along. Hey y'all, we are on page 134. If you're just joining me, I just want to say I am reading How to Be an Adult in Relationships. It's the 5 keys to mindful loving. You need to mindfully love each other. How do you do that? What are the 5 keys? I really want to read this out because I think that if you're in a relationship and you're having some issues and you don't know where to start, the best way to start is with the 5 keys to mindful loving. And that is attention, acceptance, appreciation, affection, and allowing. These are the 5 keys to love someone in a mindful way. You're not going to be reactive. You're not going to say and do things that you're going to later regret and have to say you're sorry for, and you need to apologize. Accountability is so important in relationships. Not only do you need to be accountable, but you also need to tell a story about how and why you reacted so strongly. And you need to do it as much as you can to repair relationships, particularly in conflict. Being able to repair, being able to go back and say, I'm sorry. I've had some time to think about it. I'm starting to become more mindful. And I want to be able to do better moving forward. Let's talk about how me and you can work together and deal with this issue. So these are the things that you need to do to maintain that bond and connection with that person, even in the midst of conflict. Seeing it outside of yourself and you working together with your partner to make sure you do that. And we do not have enough examples of this in our culture, in our society. We don't live in a world that models enough of this in our relationships. And we need to. These are things that our families are hurting. And it's more than just being together. It's being healthy together. And I think that's it. That's the key. That's the key there. So anyway, so that's what I'm talking about. I'm talking about conflict. Conflict is very scary, but it is inevitable. It's something that you cannot avoid, and you need to know how to deal with it. So we're going to talk about it today, how to deal with conflict. So how y'all doing? Listen, if you want to know, God knows when I go live on Sunday. I thought I was going to be live an hour ago, but I just got back from my daughter's dance recital and not dance competition. And so I didn't go live until a little later, but please be sure to text love, LOVE, to 87948. That way you will know when I finally go live on Sunday. I will go live next Sunday. I got nothing going on. Let me look at my calendar. Nope, got nothing going on next Sunday. I will be live next Sunday and we can pick up with chapter 5, but we're still continuing. Chapter 5, it is all about conflict, how to deal with conflict. I don't think we have enough examples of it, so we're going to talk about it today. Okay, so we are on chapter 5, and I am on page 134. I've read one page. It's been a half hour, and I've only read one page, but I do want to talk about the human experience. I love this part. Oh, no, wait. Where am I? Oh, I'm here. Okay, I'm on the second paragraph at the top. The phase is this phase, the conflict phase, is a totally normal, necessary, and useful part of the process of building a lasting bond. Hello, that's what conflict is. Conflict is a phase in your relationship that is totally normal. Don't think, what's wrong with us? We're not getting along. Totally normal, necessary, and useful part of the process of building a lasting bond with someone. Without the struggle it entails, we might be lost in another and thereby lose ourselves. We need conflict in order to evolve from romantic projection to mature self-affirmation. In this phase, the conflict phase of love, that corresponds to the detachment phase of the heroic journey. You have to squeeze that coal to make a diamond. Conflict, restricting, uncomfortable. Can you imagine how coal feels when it's being squeezed? When you're squeezing that coal and you turn out, it ends up a diamond. I think that's where it comes from, right? Diamond, it has to have some conflict in order for it to be something worthwhile. Diamonds are valuable, right? It's a necessary process. It's a necessary part. That's what George Lucas, that's what that Star Wars franchise is nothing but an illustration of the necessary part that happens in us. We got to go to the dark side to end up being enlightenment. So therefore, your relationship must go to the dark side in order for there to be the diamond. Oh, and a diamond is what you give your wife when you get married. Maybe that's the real reason of a diamond. Hey, it just occurred to me. Maybe the real reason why men give their wives diamonds in general, or diamonds when they get married, maybe diamond was the stone that's representative of enlightenment, of going to the darkness in order for enlightenment. You seen the coal? I think that's what diamonds are made out of. Ooh, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that's what diamonds are made out of. And that's the darkest thing. Ain't nothing darker than coal. It's black, right? So black coal and then diamond. There we go. Wow. Okay. So that is the symbology of the enlightenment. Bright. Things are bright. Very fascinating. What else would I say about conflict? I think what else I want to say about conflict is that it is a catalyst for growth. And that tension that they talked about. What did he say? There's a tension that's necessary for a lasting bond. I think through conflict, we're often forced to face some uncomfortable things. And we do have to peel back some of these illusions that we have of each other. Um, and I think this is how you become self-aware, you know. I think also when you have conflict, you need to resist the urge to say to yourself, what's wrong with them? You know, I think we need to conflict in relationships challenges us to take responsibility for our emotions and actions rather than externalizing them. And I think that we see so many examples of what's wrong with these men, what's wrong with these women, what's going on. And I think that we need to pull away from that, and we need to often kind of look at how we play a part in that conflict and own up to it, instead of saying, externalizing all of this into our partners. So for instance, you know, suppose you were insensitive and your partner was offended by something that you did, you know, instead of saying, what's wrong with her? Why is she so sensitive? Oh my God, she got daddy issues and she too sensitive. Go fix yourself and have that. No, 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 no. That's not how you deal with conflict. You recognize that, yeah, you may have been offensive to your partner. Instead of saying, what's wrong with her? Why is she so sensitive? You need to look back and say, you know, how was I not being as sensitive as I could have been with that person? And I think that is that's the part where relationships can transcend, right? So instead of conflict being a sign of failure, it can be like a bridge, you know, toward some transformation. Maybe I need to watch how I speak to her and what I say to her or him. It could go either way, instead of pointing the finger and thinking it's somebody else. So how y'all doing? Anyway, how y'all doing? We are moving on. We're talking about the human experience now. Okay. So human experience occurs only in a relational context, and specific conflicts from our past are excavated in relationships. As a result of relating to an adult partner, we can remember our life with our parents more vividly than we ever thought possible. Wow. So this is interesting. As a result of relating to an adult partner, we can remember our life with our parents more vividly than we ever thought possible. So it's bringing up things with your own parents. In the conflict phase, in fact, we cannot help but meet up with the revenants of early life. This is the phase in which we hear ourselves saying to our partner and our children the very words we heard our parents say to us long ago. So you start realizing, hey, I'm running a script. I'm becoming my mother. I'm becoming my dad. I can't believe I'm running a script based on what I experienced when I was younger. Yeah. Okay. This is the phase in which we hear ourselves saying to our partner and our children the very words we heard our parents say to us long ago. This is when we carefully train our partner to help us reenact our earliest and most bitter disappointments. We are reenacting these things. We are reenacting our bitter disappointments, hurts, and losses. Y'all ready for that? Are you ready to confront the fact that many of the things that you complain about your partner about is a reenactment of bitter disappointments when you were younger, hurts and losses, whether it's happening or not? So projective identification is a real thing. You know, there's feelings that you have that you're so uncomfortable dealing with it that you project it onto your partner. Whether they're displaying these behaviors or not, you can't help but to unconsciously project onto your partner all of the hurts the disappointments and the losses that you've experienced in the past. Y'all ready for that? Most people I know are never ready to really confront that. And it takes a lot of dancing that I have with clients. It's a lot of dancing to try to get them to become vulnerable enough to make the connection between the presenting problem, because that's the first thing I say. Anybody ever want to meet with me? The very first words out of my mouth is, what brings you here? What's on your mind? What's going on? Tell me what's going on. And I usually write down verbatim what you say, because I know that that presenting problem is a representation of past hurts, past disappointments, and past losses that are unresolved. That's just how it is. So, but it's a process to get to that point where we start peeling all the layers back and start getting down to the real presenting problem. But that's the presenting problem that you give, but there's a real problem. And so we start getting down and we dig into that. It's fascinating. I feel privileged. I honestly feel privileged. Every single client that I work with, I feel privileged to work with them because they share with me, and it's confidential. So I ain't telling nobody, well, unless somebody's in danger, of course. But if no one's in danger, I ain't telling a single soul what we talk about in session. And I think that's privilege. That's a privilege. Okay. So, where are we? This is the phase we instinctively bring up the issues we are now ready to grieve. Ooh. Y'all ready for that one? In this phase, the conflict phase, we instinctively bring up the issues we are now ready to grieve. Issues that person triggers in you that you're now ready to deal with. Because if you weren't ready to deal with, you wouldn't have picked that person to date in the first place. Happens that way. And if you weren't ready to deal with it, you wouldn't even be bringing it up as an issue. So that's another thing. But now you're ready to deal with it and reenact the past to show what happened to us and to master it in the mirroring help of some illusions. This is why I love couples therapy. It's so much better and so much more impactful than just individual work. Couples work is the most growth happens in couples work, I believe. But anyway, as the psyche continually adjusts itself to newly revealed truths, it's adjusting itself to what we now know. Wow. Yeah, I really do think the sentence that was really struck out at me was the part about you're reenacting early, most bitter disappointments, hurts, and losses. Roles that you played as a child has an impact on how vulnerable you feel like you can be in your current relationship. But let's move on. Okay. The way we center is through the extremes. So it has to have some extremes, right? You need to have the romance side. You need to have the conflict side, because eventually you get up to balance. Because romance, oh, he's so wonderful. She's so great. Putting each other up on this pedestal. You're falling in love. It's romance. Then you get to conflict. What was I thinking dating this person? I thought that I fell in love with the free spirit. Like, how sometimes it can be a relief to be like, oh, this person is so free spirited and, open and honest. And then you start realizing, well, they're a little too open. They're a little too honest. It hurts my feelings. The conflict, the things you fell in love with can turn around and be a double-edged sword and be some of the things that you kind of get on your nerves, right, about that person. So it's interesting. The way to center is through the extremes. So it's almost like a pendulum. The pendulum is a necessary process. So it goes great, then it goes horribly wrong, and then eventually you center yourself. Center. We move from the extremes of romance to the extremes of contention in order to reach the center of commitment. According to the cycle of thesis, antithesis, and synthesis. Nature too moves from the lushness of summer to the dead of winter so that we may exult in the liveliness of spring. My goodness, this is bringing up that Stevie Wonder song. Y'all know that Stevie Wonder song? Um, when the summer came, no, when the winter came, you were not around. Y'all remember that song? Now the winter's gone and love cannot be found. Where were you when I needed you last winter? Y'all remember that song? Y'all check out the Stevie Wonder song. I can't remember the name of it. I have to look it up. The Stevie Wonder. There's a Stevie Wonder wrote a song about relationships, and he connected relationships to the spring, summer, winter, and fall. He knows this is a necessary process. Stevie Wonder knows it, but that's what that song reminds me of. That song reminds me of this passage about we can now see that relating to someone or something rather than being possessed by him or her or its equivalent to acknowledging that the relationship will inevitably go through phases, just like the year, just like the seasons go through phases. Yeah, y'all listen to that song. He's talking about the phases of love. It's like you feel abandonment. Where were you when I needed you? Last winter. Where were you when I needed you last winter? Oh, yeah, summer came and you were loving all over me, but now I feel abandoned. He's talking about some of this, the feeling that you have, the death of winter, and how it is definitely connected to the death of winter is connected to how you feel when you mad at your partner. I'm mad. Sometimes I'm mad at boys and I just be like, I cannot believe him. You mad at him. I do be feeling alone and abandoned and all of that. I'd be wanting to listen to Stevie Wonder. Oh, when he get on my nerves. But he do be getting on my nerves. But we have a very solid foundation, fortunately. I think that we do. Anyway, let's move on. Okay, finally, it is useful to realize that in the journey from romance to conflict, we move through 3 modes. So I guess the author is saying that there's 3 modes. It's realistic. Every relationship goes through this, so don't think it doesn't. And it's strange having a somewhat public relationship going through these normal things. Okay, so every relationship goes through the ideal. Y'all know about that? The ideal. That's my favorite part, of course. The ideal is the best of all possible situations in love, where y'all are just vibing, you're in love with each other and you're vibing. At my best in this mode, you will see me being loving, yes, heroic, compassionate. There is little need for work on myself. So in this moment, when things are going great, the ideal is there. You don't need to work on yourself. You're already pretty. Your natural default is hopefully is to be loving, is to be heroic, is to be compassionate. That's, I think, Boyce and I, we have a lot of compassion for each other. Okay, normal. Sometimes it's this normal part. I think that's in the middle. Routine living with no major stresses or highs. No major stresses. Adult functioning. In this mode, I am clear, I am reliable, I am committed to the relationship, to the work of addressing, processing, and resolving things. So there is a point in your relationship, there is some things where you're just totally committed to resolving things. You're on the same page, you see conflict, you're dealing with it together. You're clear, very reliable. That means repeatable. I'm also a research professor. I teach research all year round. Last semester, I taught research one in the master's program. This semester, I'm teaching research 2, advanced research. So I'm a research instructor, and I always talk about reliability, which is repeatable. That means you can trust it. Reliable means you trust. You trust that that person is always going to show up. I can trust that my husband is always going to do certain things at a certain time. He's very predictable in a lot of ways. There's things that he does that, and that's really, I love that. Like, I don't like chaos, right? You know, so I love the fact that he always comes through. He always says what he means what he says. I love that part of him. And I, hopefully to him, I do that too. Okay. Things can be resolved. We have hiccups in our family and things happen. And so we try to resolve it. That's the normal phase. Okay. Then there's a low. Necessary process for all relationships where you have, like, you hit rock bottom. There's high stress. There's breakdown in a relationship. There's deep depression. You sad, got agony because the things ain't going well. This is okay, right? At my worst, in this mode, you will see my mean streak, my self-pity, my paranoia. You will see me. This is at my worst. No relationship work is possible here. Personal work is required first. So you need to go within. So when the relationship is at a low, that's when you need to really work on yourself, because those are the qualities, those are the aspects of yourself that you need in you, that you need to grow. You need to repair. And part of that repair process is not sweeping the issues under the rug. The repair process is looking at it, pulling that rug out and looking at all of the issues and being able to be mindful. This is where you need skills. It's hard to deal with skills when you're wounded. When you're dealing with past issues, you're dealing with the past issues, the hurts, all of the things in your life that's getting in the way, that's coming up for you. There is no such thing as a perfect childhood. There is no such thing as a perfect relationship. Clearly, we're talking about this here. So this is where you need to look, and you need to look at yourself closely about what is it that how am I contributing to this? What am I doing? What conversations do I need? And this is a very tough time for a lot of people to deal with this, because there's so many people that have so deep insecurities that they're not able to look at their partner and say, I'm sorry, I was wrong. I totally get what you're saying. Yes, I understand what's happening. I shouldn't have said that. I know I said that. I shouldn't have said that. You know, this is the point in a relationship where you're going to have to grow, and you're going to have to look at yourself. And some people can't do that. They're not at the point, they're so deeply wounded that they're not able to look at themselves. And if you can't look at yourself, you can't grow, and you end up being labeled as narcissistic. And really, narcissistic people, and there is a such thing as narcissist. People who have narcissistic tendencies are not going to be able to look at themselves, because the pain is so deeply entrenched in them, and they're so insecure about themselves that it's too painful for them to even look at themselves, because it puts them down into a depressive state. And so a lot of work needs to be done there. And but you know, it's unfortunate, because a lot of resentment can build up in these types of heavy conflict relationships. Resentment can build up, and you can end up losing your partner if you're not able and open to examine some of these things. So anyway, so that's what we're saying. Going on to page 135, mature people, mature. Not childish, the wounded child. Y'all heard of the wounded child? The wounded child, the protective child, and the functional adult. When you're the functional wise adult, mature functional wise adults, they can go from best to worst and back to the center many times. They're not afraid to look at themselves. To accept this as a fact releases us from taking a partner's behavior too personally. You're bringing up something in them. Don't take it personal. Help yourself, help them. Y'all help each other through this. From blaming, so you can't take it personally, from blaming and even from fear, all the ways of letting go of the ego. All the ways of letting go of the ego. When we are stuck in the low ebb mode where there's lots of conflict, as in the mythic scene of the ship stuck in port, we need to take especially strong action because standing still may have become more comfortable than the effort it takes to move. You got to work on yourself. This is why risk becomes the hero's style. Yes. Oh, Tammy. Tammy's tapping in here. Tammy is saying, I dated a narcissistic man. I had Bender experienced anything of that manner. Never. I had never experienced anything of that manner. Thanks for that info. Yeah, it's a tough thing because they're not able to look. It hurts too much and they're not able to look at it. But anyway, that's not going to be all of us. We all know better now. And even that narcissistic man that you dated, Tammy, even that person is in a lot of pain and lives wherever that person is right now. I'm certain he's very unhappy. And that's unfortunate because happiness is a choice. And you can make the choose to look at yourself and to see your part in why things fell apart. Okay. So we are here. Okay. We need to take especially strong action because standing still may have become more comfortable than the effort it takes to move. And this is why risk becomes the hero's style. Okay. How y'all doing? There's some people just joining us, and I just want to say I am reading from How to Be an Adult in Relationships. It's the 5 keys of mindful loving. You got to go back to the other videos in order to be able to understand what the 5 keys are, but this is what we're talking about. The book is by David Rico. I interviewed him, interviewed David Rico, the author of this book. He's got another book coming out, so I'm going to bring him back on for my Monday night podcast on YouTube, and he has another book, so we'll be talking about that other book. But anyway, so we're right here on page 135. This is chapter 5, and it's all about conflict. So when conflicts arise, for today and the next couple of weeks, we're going to talk about what to do in conflict, because most of us don't know. Guess what? How about that? Most of us don't know what to do in conflict because most of us, like myself and everybody included, we didn't necessarily come from the perfect childhood. No one had a perfect childhood. And for many of us, we were never modeled the proper way to deal with conflict. So much so that we're scared of it. And rightfully so. We should be scared of it because sometimes conflict is paired in our minds with yelling, screaming, fighting, drinking, violence. Sometimes in our mind, conflict is dealt with throwing things and losing people important to you. Sometimes we don't know how to terminate because termination and saying goodbye to somebody in a peaceful way was never modeled to us. Sometimes we grew up in environments where conflict was dealt with in a very childish way, not a very mature way, and definitely not mindfully. So this is about how to deal with conflict in a mindful way where you can grow from it instead of it being paired with something awful and horrific, like many of us experience. Okay. All right. So we are on page 135 and we're learning. We're getting better, right? Okay. Or to use another metaphor, nature requires the breakdown of established structures to accommodate new conditions in the environment. This means that life necessarily includes turbulence and disillusion. Life necessarily includes turbulence, and disillusion. Wow. The harborers of transformation. You can't have transformation. You cannot grow as a person without turbulence and dissolution. I don't like turbulence on an airplane, but it's necessary to get where I need to be. Sometimes turbulence is just what happens in the air. I don't quite understand it, but anyway. In fact, natural systems zealously participate in their own self-transcendence. Saint John of the Cross speaks in just these terms about the ego. Okay. Swiftly and with nothing spared, I am being entirely dismantled. Oh my goodness. John the Cross speaks in just these terms about his ego, that swiftly with nothing spared, they ain't sparing nothing, I am being entirely dismantled. That's how it feels. That's what the ego feels like. He does not merely say that, but prays for it. He prays for the dismantling of his ego because he understands that that's how you grow. That's how you transcend, is to just disrupt things as it is. Reminds me of another song about everything must change. Nothing stays the same. This is what this is saying. Everything gets dismantled. He does not merely say that, but prays for it because he understands that's how you grow. Disturbance of the status quo and the dismantling of old forms are signs of healthy evolution. It don't feel like it in the moment, but sometimes things need to be disrupted. Conflict needs to happen in order for you to transcend. We asked for it when we were born. We asked to be transcended. We asked to be born here on earth, I think, so that we can experience life, so that we can learn and transcend to, I think, other forms. I think that's why when we pass away, people say that person transcended, because I really do think it's a you're transcending to another whatever. Okay. Nature rejoices the sprouts of spring, but is equally excited by autumn. So nature loves spring. The birds are beautiful. The trees are blooming. Nature gets excited about spring, but it also gets excited about autumn. And that's when everything dies. That's when things transcend, which ensures another and richer spring. So it's a necessary process. We have to have autumn. We have to have winter in order for us to enjoy spring. In relationships, we have to have romance. We have to have a foundation, but we also need to have conflict in order to transcend, transitioning. It happens in us all. Okay. But is equally excited by autumn, which ensures another and richer spring. Can we see our conflicts in this same optimistic way? I can. In the moment, I'm mad at my husband because he did something that pissed me off. In that moment, I don't know if I can see it. Looking back on it, I can definitely see it sometimes. You know, I like the John the Cross because he says, swiftly with nothing spared, I am being entirely dismantled. That's how I feel. Like in an argument, I do feel that way. Nothing spared. I mean, just think about the imagery of being dismantled. You know, it resonates, you know, deeply with how many of us experience conflict. You know, it just hurts. In the process of dismantling your ego and confronting ingrained patterns often feels like an intense stripping away of these old identities and defenses. So, you know, some of the defenses, how did you feel? You know, you felt abandoned by a parent or rejected by a parent growing up? How did you feel in that moment when you were younger? And were you able to articulate how that felt for you? Or did you use your defenses? Defenses is like minimizing, maybe denying that it even happened. You have these defenses that protects us from feeling how we really felt, because it hurts to be rejected. So it's a humbling but necessary process for self-awareness and to grow and connect in that way. So, okay, so we're moving on, page 136. There's another quote by Ken Wilber. I don't know who Ken Wilber is, but he is saying, the process of evolution is wildly self-transcendent. So, he's saying that the process of evolution to evolve spiritually and psychologically sometimes involves transcending old limitations and moving forward and integrating the experience in your life. I think it's letting go of these identities and just having a more expansive look at yourself. Okay, so I think that is, we're almost, we've been talking for a while here. Thank you guys for joining me, learning about conflict, how to deal with conflict in a way that's mindful. These are the things that we've been talking about today. We will continue. We will pick up the next couple of sections of this text next week. According to my calendar, I am totally free next week. No travel, nothing like that for me. So I'll be around, and which means I will be here, right here. So please join me. Y'all follow me on Instagram. Coaching with Dr. Alicia on Instagram. Y'all see that? Wait, let me see if I can bring it up larger. Follow me on Instagram. Coaching with Dr. Alicia. I'm so close to 10,000 followers. I'm hoping to get there soon. I'm so close. And to know next week when I go live, I'll try to post something as soon as I find out what my schedule's like. But to really find out when I go live, text love to 87948. And you'll be able to get notifications, and you'll get other information from me, but definitely you'll be able to know next week when I talk about this. Tomorrow on Mental Health Monday, I'm going to be interviewing Miss Trinidad and Tobago. Where's all my CARICOM people out there? I see y'all Caribbean people. I got Caribbean people in my family. And so y'all come out and show some support to Miss Trinidad and Tobago. We're going to talk about body positivity and body images tomorrow night. And then Tuesday, I'm going to be on Fly Nubian Money, talking about whatever they want me to talk about. I'm not sure of the topic, but thank you. We're going to continue with this because we as Black people, listen, all of these mindful techniques this white man wrote about, these mindfulness techniques, this all Black stuff. This our stuff. This our science. But I'm so happy that this guy wrote about it and is bringing it back into, we need to embrace who and what we really are. And part of that is healing. And this is a great way to do this in a way that's mindful. Thank you, Aisha. Thank you, Karen. Thank you, Rhonda and Stephanie and Tammy. Tammy, girl, that relationship with that narcissist. Ooh, honey, you learned your lesson. Hopefully you learned your lesson. Kashi, Margot, how y'all doing? Rhonda, yes, Rhonda, thank you for following me on Instagram. Hold on, let me put that back up. Oh, wait, Lord, here I go. Instagram, follow me on Instagram. And if you want to reach out to me, you can definitely go to my website, Coaching with Dr. Alicia, fill out the intake, and I'll be in contact with you. You can schedule a consultation with me. I can work with you on a more confidential, intimate level with my coaching program. And I will see you guys next week. Bye, everybody.